People ask, why is the Old Testament so brutal? Honestly, the prophet Samuel hacks King Agag to death with a sword. When Jericho falls miraculously, the women and the children have to be slaughtered. When strangers come to a town, all the men gather outside the city and demand to have their way with them in the night. Stories like this feel harsh, don't they? Raising the question, if God is good, what's going on? Well, before we judge BC people by AD standards, let's take another look at the Old Testament world. Acts 17 says, in those earlier times, humanity was in the dark, feeling their way to God. Do you get that? Groping, darkness, because the light of Christ had not yet dawned. 1,500 years before Jesus, there were no civil rights, no equality. Life was tribal, violent, unstable. War wasn't rare, it was constant. The power of your God was measured by your military successes, and human life was not sacred. The Old Testament laws that seem so harsh to us today actually restrain violence and bad behavior compared to all the surrounding cultures there. God actually used those laws to introduce limits, justice, and accountability into a brutal world. So the Old Testament isn't just a record of violence, it's a record of a loving God stepping into an unfriendly world, beginning to shape one nation to influence all the others. Deuteronomy 7:22 describes God's work for Israel as little by little, meeting humanity where it was, not where he wanted them to be. Then comes Jesus Christ, and the light breaks through. Instead of love your neighbor, he says, love your enemy. Instead of retaliation, he calls for forgiveness. What was dim becomes clear. What was partial becomes complete. You see, the violence of the Old Testament doesn't show a different God. It reveals a different world in darkness before the truth arrived to change everything. So today we read about ancient history from the safety of our world, transformed by the gospel of Jesus Christ. Don't you thank God for that every day? Listen, share your thoughts below. I would love to hear from you. I'm Timothy Floyd, and you've just invested 3 minutes in eternity.